Hello, everyone. I'm Randy Arrington, and welcome to the 62nd episode of Valley Livin. We're here today in the Page County Economic Development and Tourism Office to talk with the director, Nina Fox, and also to talk with Bart Price and Dennis Fleming, members of the Ag Subcommittee of the Economic Development Authority here in Page County. And today we're going to be talking about plans for developing a meat processing plant here in Page County that is sure to help out a lot of different folks in the region and not just in Page County. The project has already been in the works and been talked about for about 2 years, and we'll see where we are and where things stand right now with that project, how we got to the point that we're at now, and where things will go from here. We'll talk about all of that and much more in just a moment, but first, a word from our sponsor.
At Luray Caverns, you can hear music of symphonic quality from ancient stone formations on the great stalacpipe organ, the largest musical instrument in the world, only at Luray Caverns. Visit them online at luraycaverns.com to plan your trip today.
Welcome back, everybody. You're here with Valley Livin, our 62nd episode being recorded on Monday, March the 17th, and it will be airing first on Wednesday, March the 19th. I want to thank all of you for being here today. Nina Fox is with us, Director of Economic Development and Tourism, Dennis Fleming and Bart Price from the Ag Subcommittee from the Page County Economic Development Authority. And as we said earlier, we're talking about an idea that caught birth a couple of years ago about developing a meat processing facility here in Page County. So let's start off talking about the need for this facility, for a meat processing plant in Page. How will it benefit local producers and the county as a whole? I'll start with you, Dennis.
Well, the whole discussion started out with a problem with the slaughter facilities not having enough slots for producing all the animals that people needed to be processed. So through that need in processing meat, we had thought about this idea of possibly building a slaughterhouse to start with.
Right.
And then that turned into just a processing center, and now we will be using this center in combination with T&E Markets out of Harrisonburg.
Okay.
They will do the killing, and then there will be no slaughtering at this facility.
Well, I was going to ask you, what is the key difference between a slaughterhouse and a meat processing facility? And I think you just answered that.
Yeah, there's no live animals comes into this
Okay.
facility. It will all be halves carcasses that will come in. But the need is basically there's been a shortage of slots, which they call slots, is where you can get an animal taken to a slaughter facility, and then that animal is then slaughtered and then hung and then processed, and there's a backlog of sometimes up to a year.
Wow,
to get
a year.
Yes, up to a year to get those spots. Now some of that has been alleviated in the past year because of the price of cattle.
Okay.
The price of cattle now going to the open market at $1.90 a pound for slaughter weights, when it was about $1.29 in recent past.
Wow.
So what happens is some of this stuff is moved to other parts of the country.
Okay.
Midwest
Okay.
area, stuff like that. So
Well,
I don't know if
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
And to just speak to the county portion of that question, in 2021, we received an AFID grant, and actually my predecessor had applied for the grant, and she won it on behalf of the county. And we had a roundtable discussion with the farming community in Stanley Fire Hall in 2021. And really the idea was talk about agriculture as an economic driver in Page County, and what can we do as a local government agency to support the agriculture needs.
Right.
And we talked about everything from tomato growing to meat processing facility and food insecurities and everything in between. It was a great conversation, and we were so happy to have the outpouring of support from the farming community, but also, once again, like really reflecting on the conservative values of our county. How do we preserve farmland without mandates? And the idea there came, the idea of how do you make farming more profitable? And what ways can we help facilitate that? And that's where this conversation really evolved. So yes, there are a lot of bottleneck concerns and things like that as addressing food insecurities in our cattle farmers. But overall, like, this will help preserve the scenic beauty, the farmland, making it more profitable for farmers. Like Dennis was saying, when cattle were getting $1.20 on the foot, is basically the same rate they were getting for 20 years.
Wow.
When we know the cost of hamburger 20 years ago compared to what today is,
Right.
you know, how can we get a little bit of that,
Sure,
back here and
sure.
retain those revenues? So it really, from an economic perspective, made a lot of sense to take this project on and to really work at it and figure it out and fine tune it. And there's a lot of discovery and feasibility and so forth that has to be conducted, but that's kind of from the county perspective.
I'm going to ask Mr. Price, I've heard from some people that they've had to go as far away as Pennsylvania to get a cow slaughtered. Have you heard of stories like that? And do you see the need in the industry?
Yes, that, and especially for further processing, whether it's smoked meats of any type, you have to go all the way to Pennsylvania. No one in Virginia does that as far as the beef sticks.
So if we had a processing center right here in Page County where you only had to go 10 minutes instead of 4 or 5 hours or 4 hours, I mean, obviously the travel, but what other ways does that help the farmer directly?
Well, obviously it's going to help more with slots. That's the bottleneck right now, whether it's nationally or locally or regionally. And not just the larger or bigger farmers, but the smaller ones, even 1 or 2
Right.
steers in the backyard or whatever.
Right, right.
That's what we're trying to help the overall, not just tourism, obviously with agritourism,
Right,
but
right.
with
The food industry.
food industry as well.
Well, Dennis, does this bottleneck that you say is really a national problem, also a regional problem? It's really a problem everywhere. Is that part of what's driving beef prices up?
I don't know what's the biggest influence in.
Well, some of it's been drought.
Because he's an active beef farmer.
right.
So he's-
Some of it's been drought.
Okay.
A lot of it's been drought, actually. Past 2 summers, part of it before that. Some of it's regional, but it ends up affecting the whole game.
Yeah, if you have a bottleneck in the distribution process, it would seem like that would affect the prices some, but.
Yes.
But you were saying earlier that there was an effort nationally, USDA, to try to get some of these more smaller regional facilities either expanded or maybe build new ones to take some of the pressure off that supply chain.
The federal government has set aside some money through the USDA to help to alleviate the what they say the big four producers in our country that slaughter thousands and thousands a week. And through what they found was during COVID, when we had the outbreaks of viruses within the working group of the big plants, it would shut down that plant, and then that made a supply problem in meat for the market. There was times when you couldn't get, there was nothing available, and it's a scary situation when you have your food supply
Right.
hindered by a virus like that. So
Absolutely.
we think that a small regional, this is going to be a regional facility,
Right.
which will encompass the whole the Shenandoah Valley as well as Page Valley.
Okay.
And it will, like Bart was saying about helping the small farmers, this also will open up the door for the folks that have cow-calf operations to maybe start raising and finishing a few head and then marketing their own beef brand as well.
Okay.
Like Jared Burner Beef and then
Sure.
the Hawksbill Peak Farms. They're 2 local people that are in that market, and this facility will help facilitate that for them on individual basis.
Right.
To speak to the prices, the drought is a concern, environmental reasons, so forth. labor force.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you know, you have 4 major meat processing facilities controlling the supply and a very growing and demanding time of this type of commodity, right? And so when these 4 major players, they can control what the output is, so they control the pricing and so forth.
Right.
To allow for pricing to stabilize, in my opinion, from an economics perspective, is that if you can disperse that, and you know, I don't want to say they have a monopoly, but in a sense they do. And allowing these smaller operations will help also allow local farmers or smaller farmers, and not just in Page County, but nationwide, to be able to also be a retailer.
Right.
Especially when you have USDA on site and they can inspect the you know, the goods. So not only is this a profit channel for the farmers, but a way to make meat more affordable again for our residents, theoretically.
Right. Sure,
and
sure.
you know, in a very big picture, like we're not going to change that
sure.
overnight, but I just think that's important to note that when you have 4 controlling it, that really you know, it creates shifts in prices that are not beneficial to everyone.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking about before we went on the air here about you've got a location earmarked. Where is that?
So the Economic Development Authority is under an option to purchase contract on the old pharmacy in Shenandoah.
Oh, good.
4.5 acres.
Yes.
Yeah, that's been vacant for a while since Mike Gunn evacuated that building about the time that a couple other pharmacies went down to some of our chain competition here. Well, let's take one more question before we go to break here. And what kind of obstacles, you know, this has been kicked around for a couple of years now, and I know there's been a lot of discussions with different groups. There's many facets that you have to think about. What's been some of the obstacles you guys have faced so far? Who'd like to take that one?
You want me to take? I can start.
Okay.
To be just completely candid, originally we had a site in mind that we thought would make the most sense for this type of meat processing, but this is also when we were originally thinking about slaughtering on site. That site no longer was available to us, and so we had to start exploring other options, but it really was a blessing in disguise because it also gave us time to really thoroughly start exploring different grant opportunities, also different type of options for investors. You know, is it going to be a co-op? Is it a private-public partnership? Is it a corporation? What does that look like? And having those conversations, also a time to see what the market was doing. It was a very unstable time, and so now we have a little more stable ground on where the pricing structures are to help us with the performance matrix and so forth. So while there are obstacles, they were also great advantages, I think, to us, and then created the opportunity for a partnership with Harrisonburg's meat processing facility there through T&E, and they would, you know, do the slaughtering and we can do the processing. They are geographically constrained to expand, and this partners 2 companies together, and having something with that great base and client base, it really also, we believe, helps propel this project in a positive direction.
And also, I would imagine, I don't know, but I would imagine going from being a slaughterhouse to a meat processing facility is probably less red tape, less regulations, maybe?
It's less especially on the waste disposal.
Okay.
That was the big problem with the slaughter facility of a size, a nature that we're talking about, because you have to pretty much have to have your own wastewater recovery and treatment center, almost like your own sewer plant to take care of that, because you do not want to pollute and you want to do everything you can.
Right, absolutely.
So yeah, that was. I think the group that the initial set of people who are involved in formulating or coming up with these ideas had a discussion with T&E, and they said, hey, you know, would you be interested in being partnering with this? And of course, at the same time, this is why a processing center like this is relevant and important, is they were looking for an avenue to increase their hog production.
Okay.
And they have no room or no way to do that. So this alleviates all the beef so they can focus on the hog slaughter.
Okay.
because they have a lot of hog growers and stuff. And then see that may open up even a more of a farming market, the farmers to maybe produce some more hogs in the area to go there. So the whole thing I think can be a wonderful thing. And to add on before I forget, Bart mentioned about the further processing. What that is the beef sticks, jerkies, hot dogs. There is no USDA inspected facility in the state of Virginia.
Really?
None.
Now that is pretty surprising.
This will be the first USDA inspected facility. That's the reason why people like Burner beef.
Value added. For the value added.
Right.
Services.
Yeah. For the further processing, value added. Thank you.
Okay.
Not meat. Not the meat in general.
Okay. I was going to say that sounded pretty.
No. I'm talking about the further processing, which I'm glad you clarified that because that can get misconstrued.
By evolving the way the plan has evolved, what's helped is we're going to work regionally with T&E and others possibly to alleviate those problems. And
So.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, let's take a break right now. We're going to come back and talk about where the process is right now and maybe where we go from here. We'll talk about all of that and more in just a moment. But first, another word from our sponsor.
At Luray Caverns, from well-lighted paved walkways, explore cathedral-sized rooms with ceilings 10 stories high and walk among huge chambers filled with towering stone columns. Come visit Geology's Hall of Fame, only at Luray Caverns. Visit them online at luraycaverns.com to plan your trip today.
Welcome back, everybody, to our 62nd episode of Page Valley Livin'. We're here with Nina Fox, Bart Price, and Dennis Fleming talking about a meat processing facility. And I believe you all have put a name to this this effort. What's it called?
Yeah, the investor group that the initial group has filed for I guess through the SCC. Is that what they call it? SCC. And it is going to be named Shenandoah Valley Foods LLC.
Okay,
so
all right.
That is the company that's going to be operating this facility.
Okay, and if you could, Nina, maybe just summarize. We talked a little bit about where we began and how we got here, and all. Just kind of where are we at? What is the stage we're at right now?
Well, the stage we're at right now is that, we've also secured a location. We have the option to purchase the site. We are in the process of finalizing, we're waiting on a response from the state for some additional grant funds. Okay. So the county earmarked $300,000 in 2022, but it was fiscal year 2023 funds that they had earmarked towards this project. But with the stipulation that we utilize this money to capitalize on state and federal dollars. Mm-hmm. A lot of the different grants that are available require a local match. Mm-hmm. And so that is the reason for the investment from the county. So it's, for instance, on the Go Virginia funding, for every dollar the locality invests, we get $2 back from the state. Okay. For a $30,000 investment, we're going to be able to apply for $60,000 in grant funds for a total combined value of $90,000. So it's really stretching those local dollars. And that was the intent of that $300,000 contribution. Okay. And the agreement from the private investors is that once this is up and running, they hope to actually pay back the county those funds.
So it would be a private, maybe start as a public private and then become a private entity.
Yeah, I think if I'm correct, Nina, in finalizing the contract on this purchase, I just want it to be known that the county is not going to be holding the property. It's going to be purchased back by the investor group. Yeah. Within a certain agreed time.
I see.
So that
not a county operated facility.
Not a county operated facility or county owned facility.
Okay. If you want to think about it in the perspective, if there was a step 1, 2, and 3, mm-hmm. Page County and the private entity would be in a relationship for step 1. Okay. But 2 and 3 is then going to be turned over to complete privatized. Okay. But in the in order to capitalize on those grants, it has to have local government involvement.
Sure.
And so, like, the EDA will hold the land or the property for a short period of time, and then will then be converted over. And
Okay.
I know this sounds really convoluted, but unfortunately, this is the way most of the state public funds work. And so this is the way that economic development authorities can work with business to grow economically.
Right. Well, I know that there's a lot of uncertainties. There's still a lot of things to figure out and details to put in place. Can we put a price tag on this yet? And do we know how it would be funded through this investment and some of the money up front from the county? Or
So the EDA's position is they don't want to go back to the county to really ask for any more money than what has already been invested.
Right. And that $300,000 that has already been earmarked.
It's earmarked. It has not been spent. It's sitting in an account and available for us. The $30,000 of it has been, and that's on engineering studies and to start understanding what is the total cost of this facility going to be.
Right.
And so we're still in that process. So we don't have a total ticket, sale price item or sale price total at this point for what all of this is going to cost. That's still in the exploration phase. And the reason is it's not just simply what's the cost of land and what's the cost of the equipment, but what grants are available? Are we eligible? What's the likelihood we would get them?
Right.
If we receive them, what's then the private investment from these private investors need to be? And so there's a lot of moving parts and there's some variables to it. And to be completely candid, I'm not sure we're ever going to really know until the final check is written. But we'll have a good ballpark, but that's the way that the nature of business development is.
So those are basically the next steps, working out the financing and the partnership and the details. And do we have a timeline that we think we might, or that we're working towards?
Yeah, so really we're hoping to have it done by June.
Of this year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
we're hoping that, not breaking ground, but a final.
As far as the finalization on the purchase of the property.
Yes.
Purchase of the property.
And the agreement between the investor group that how they're going to capitalize that. So that the county wants to have the position where the investor group is backing this purchase.
Okay.
In other words, so that the county does not have to own land that we can't use if something would happen. It would be out of our hands, and the investor group would be the ones that would own the property.
Okay.
So, but it's a process like she was saying they have to go through for the grant process. So
Absolutely. Well, with all of this painstaking process and the ideas and the meetings and the back and forth and all, Mr. Price, we've already asked this question, and so it may be a little repetitive, but I think it's worth hitting on again. So when the switch is flipped on this project, I'm talking about operational, cut the ribbon, we're producing meat. What do you hope to be the biggest benefits to you as a farmer and other farmers in Page County?
Well, instead of, for example, sending it to a market and not knowing for sure, what the cattle brought the week prior, we're hoping to ascertain a more set price and possibly even above what the market's doing. It's all obviously kind of a nebulous nature right now, but it's going to give cattlemen a better chance of knowing what they're going to get, because even if you know what they got the week before for their cattle, the following week there's no guarantee when you send your cattle. Whereas if there's an agreement or there's you've contacted and
right. And I know a big concern of some of the members of the Board of Supervisors has been that this absolutely gives, I don't know if first option is the right word, but that it takes care of Page County farmers. From all that you've heard in the discussions and meetings, do you think it will fulfill that?
That's what we intend, and that's what we certainly hope.
And everyone from the individual farmer with one old cow that they want to get slaughtered to maybe even the high-end premium products that we're seeing come out of Page County.
As this builds out, we're hoping that not just some of the larger farmers, but the ones that maybe have one or two in the backyard, they'll be or have that capability. They'll be spurred on to, hey, I can get a slot.
Right.
And I know it's not a year out from today, so hopefully it'll the impetus for them to join in.
And to add to that, one of the other benefits I think of this processing center that is huge for our community is to create a branded product.
Right.
That would be marketed, that we could say that this is Virginia grown in Page County or Rockingham County or whatever, but there can be a brand that's Shenandoah Valley Foods brand that is sold in markets in around D.C., Richmond, all over the East Coast. I think the largest market in the whole country is D.C. area. It's a huge market.
And just
so
go ahead.
It can just, I think it can uplift the farming community to see a light at the end of the tunnel in the farming industry.
Just out of curiosity, instead of Shenandoah Valley, why not Page Valley? Or do we have investors outside of the county, I guess?
So maybe I can speak to that a little bit. The reason why we said Shenandoah Valley Foods is the reality is to make the best use of this building, we need a lot of cattle and a lot more than what we have just in Page County. So in this development and in this project, we have teamed up with Rockingham County, Augusta County, and Shenandoah County to create a collaboration and also to ensure that those communities are not also competing with us at the same time while we're making all of this investment. So the idea is let's have this meat processing facility that has been identified as a need. The Central Shenandoah Valley Regional Planning District, the PDC, did a feasibility study a year before we did with the same conclusions of this being a need. Fauquier County in the Piedmont region, right over the mountain, also did a feasibility study identifying that this is an absolute need. But if we all went and started our own meat processing facilities, the needs are significantly going to diminish if we're all have this, multi-million dollars investments. So we have reached out and really I don't want to overstate here, but I believe Page County are trailblazers in this project. We're a lot further ahead than any of our neighboring communities or the neighboring regions, and they are looking to us to team up with us. And so that's the idea behind Shenandoah Valley Foods. It's not just the need, and in Page County farmers alone, even if every single person started growing cattle, this could process more than that.
Wow.
Well, and the numbers that's required to make it a profitable business is more than Page County produces. But that also opens up more producers in Page County to move towards producing more cattle because they're here, and it's a closer facility. So I think that's
with local foods being the trend now, and of course the younger generation a lot more savvy. The consumers are a lot more savvy about where their food comes from. Whether it's the QR codes, knowing where the beef or the chicken. With for example SBO knows not only the company but the farmer and the location that it came from specifically.
Well, y'all were reading my mind. That is kind of how I wanted to end it with kind of circling back to the ways that this would be beneficial. We talked with Mr. Price about how now farmers can find a slot. We talked about the national need because there's a bottleneck in these facilities. But from a county perspective, Nina, we're looking at a larger tax base. We're looking at a local product. We're looking at jobs. I mean, this is a win-win-win-win-win-win situation, isn't it?
It really, really, it is. And we're really excited to be a part of it. And that's the reason why we've dedicated so much time and effort to this project. And we're hoping that it continues to stay alive. But at the end of the day, we don't want a county-run facility. The private investors are really doing a significant amount of work. They're here, they're dedicated. And we're hoping that our local producers will also be investors. We're hoping, that because those people who are producing the cattle that will go through this should be a part of it. And that's part of the structure that we hope that Page County farmers will take advantage of as well.
All right. Very good. Well, I think that's a good spot to end on. And it's a process that is still ongoing.
Yes.
It's a process that we still have questions to answer, and we're not sure exactly how everything will work. But I think it's going to be a great project. I want to thank each and every one of you for your work on it. Nina Fox, Bart Price, and Dennis Fleming. Thanks so much for being with us here today, and all you're doing to help our community. We appreciate it very much. Very much. Thanks everybody out there to checking in on our 62nd episode of Page Valley Livin' right here from the Office of Page County Economic Development and Tourism. We want to thank you and make sure that you click that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you share this video with a friend. We're trying to get information out there to all the farmers in Page County that either are already cattle farmers or want to be cattle farmers, maybe. How about that? And as always, we want to thank Eleanor Arrington for all of her work behind the camera today and in the editing room. And as we always end up, make sure you go by the Page County Animal Shelter and help one of our furry friends find a forever home. Until next week, for Nina Fox, Bart Price, and Dennis Fleming, I'm Randy Arrington saying enjoy that Page Valley living.